My job there was to examine pictures as they were coming in of the surface of Mars in regions that we thought would be safe for the spacecraft to land. There was a small group of people who felt that this was an example of an alien construction, that there was life on Mars, or there had been life on Mars.
Very interestingly enough, NASA first took an image of the face on Mars and they labeled it head. And this photograph was quickly dismissed by NASA as a trick of light and shadow. It's not really a face on Mars, it's just a lighting angle difference. Wrong answer. Here we have a face in pyramids on Mars, a sphinx in pyramids in Egypt. There has to be a connection, a Mars-Earth connection.
A city recently discovered on Mars, known as Cydonia, appears to have geometrical proportion within the layout of the city. It shows elements of hyperdimensional physics and mathematics. It is unlikely that this area was formed naturally, and it is likely to be artificial and may contain within its construction valuable information. There have been areas on Earth that have been tested against the alignment of this city, and we find the same alignment of this city matches up with the geometry of Avebury's stone circle in Silbury Hill, the 3 Giza pyramids, and the 3 pyramids in Teotihuacan in Mexico, all of which align with the constellation of Orion's belt. The face on Mars also aligns precisely with the equator on Mars. The word Cairo actually means Mars in an ancient Egyptian language.
Always airbrush these out before we sell them to the public.
Showed this base, which had geometric shapes. There were towers, there were spherical buildings, there were very tall towers, and things that looked somewhat like radar dishes, but they were large structures. If I compare it to what I'm seeing now, because I do have photographs that have artifacts in them that are similar to what I saw, they're massive. Some of the structures are, half a mile in size. So they're huge structures.
There are major facilities and major activities going on the moon all the time. Not only that, the moon has water. Now, whether it's a natural process from the satellite, or whether it's water that's been stored there for use, there are vaporous signs of a form of an atmosphere in the bottom of some of the craters. Now, astronomers have seen these pictures, but that dishonest bunch of nitwits won't discuss it. They're scared because you know why? 90% of their income comes from government grants. And when you've got a government grant, and that's your prime source of income, you're going to say whatever the government says you should say, or don't say whatever the government doesn't want said. Well, anyhow, there's some atmosphere on the moon, at least in the base of several of the larger craters. There is water on the moon, but there is major activity going on. I mean, we're talking about engineering activity. There are giant ships that come and go out of the craters. Mm-hmm. There are lights all the time. They have noticed bridges appearing and then disappearing. I mean, they're active as hell on the moon. But the same activity is going on Mars. You've seen my photograph, I guess. It's not only my photograph, but there's a city the size of Chicago underground on Mars that's generating so much heat it shows up in infrared photographs.
Now,
there is an intelligence on Mars that wants to limit our access to their reality. And they've done a damn pretty good job of it.
well, our witness Henry Deacon, and I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm familiar with him. I don't know him well.
Okay. He has said that the Anunnaki are on Mars in
They
bases.
are. I agree with that.
So are they the ones shooting down those objects, you know, the various
probably.
craft from JPL and so on?
Look, Zechariah has said, and I know this old man, I respect him tremendously. He says they never left. They withdrew overtly from their activities on the planet with us, but their activities have continued covertly, both on Earth, the Moon, and Mars. And from the knowledge I have and the limited amount of information I've been able to get, that the primary focus, the primary intelligence behind all of this are the Anunnaki, the same group that genetically engineered us so many thousands of years ago.
Okay, but you've got Enki and Enlil, right? And these are warring brothers, and one is working for the positive side of humanity.
Well,
and
you
the
had
other...
this dysfunctional family. They even went to war with each other. And man was in the middle, as he always has been. You know, we were a product of their engineering. They engineered us as a slave species. They engineered us to work for them.
The effects that Mars has on the planet Earth are very drastic. Every 50,000 years, Mars comes drastically close to the planet Earth. The last time Mars was closest to the Earth was in 2003. In the spring of 2003, we had the war in Iraq, when the states mercilessly bombed Iraq in what was referred to as shock and awe. Around this time, many people were feeling a sense of anger and frustration. Do you remember how you felt around this time? The elite usually engineer wars around planetary alignments to harness energies, and are aware of the effects that these have on our consciousness. Mars also has two moons, Deimos and Phobos, which is Greek for war and fear.
Freedom and fear are at war. The course of this conflict is not known, yet its outcome is certain. Freedom and fear, justice and cruelty have always been at war.
If the Anunnaki are on Mars, this would explain their enormous size, because the gravity on Mars has a much lower density than the gravity on the planet Earth, which would allow them to grow taller.